Hello, people. Welcome back to another video by your good friend, Super Chad Marco, the big Aniki. I know. Just make sure you attack the like button and let's chill and chop it up. So I'm sure you guys have heard about the whole concept of Looksmatch, right? So if you don't know, at least as far as I remember, the Looksmatch term came out of the incel community, from what I remember. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's when I remember first hearing that term come up. But Looksmatch is basically this idea that people should date within their league. And so if you think about it, it's not necessarily a new idea, because people have always talked about, oh, she's out of your league, or just tell girls, oh, you're out of his league, or, you know, stay in your lane, shit like that. So it's not like it's a completely new concept, but I think that the way that the incel community uses it is definitely a bit different, because I think when incels say it, they're usually using it as an argument to shame women for wanting to date outside of what they perceive their league to be. So like a girl that's a 6 but wants tall, big dick Chad, right? So that's how oftentimes the incels will use it. They'll usually use it as a shaming tactic against women. And then nowadays I see like less attractive women use that as a shaming tactic against like men. You know, they'll say things like, oh, if only you went for a girl that's closer to your league, and stop, you know, like the incels tell girls stop chasing after Chad, and then the girls tell incels and virgin guys stop chasing after Stacy. It's that sort of thing, right? But then it begs the question, you know, should you date your looks match? Now, me personally, I look at it like this. Now, the whole concept of leagues or looks match, it's definitely a lot of reality to that. Like, there's a lot of realness to it, truth to it. Because I think that now, of course, we gotta look at it from the male perspective, because it's different for women. But let's just look at it from the male perspective. You know, the simple fact is, when it comes to men, the lower your standards in terms of a woman's physical beauty, the easier it's going to be for you to find dates. The easier it's going to be for you to get a girlfriend. The easier it'll be to get a wife, and all that good stuff. But the more attractive you want a girl to be in terms of her physical beauty, typically the more difficult it's going to be. And that obviously just has to do with the way SMV, sexual market value, works. You know, the more attractive a woman is, the better quality her options are going to be. And what further makes this difficult for men is that, at least in my assessment, men and women don't really have like similar SMV, even when they are like both on the same level in terms of the typical 1 out of 10 physical beauty rating scale. So what I mean is, if a guy is a 5, that doesn't mean that he's on the same level as a girl who is a 5. It's like, you look at myself, for instance, right? Like, typically I get rated anywhere from a 5 or a 6. Now let's be generous and say that I'm a 6, right? Now, throughout my life, the girls that came on to me the strongest were always less attractive than what I'm really interested in. I would say typically they range anywhere from like a 2 to a 4, right? And so that makes sense based on my level as a 5 or a 6. Like, I only really get girls to aggressively come after me when they see me as being somewhat or more attractive, when they see me as being more attractive than they are, right? But me as a 6, hypothetically, if I went after girls who would be considered a 6, it wouldn't be very easy, because girls who are at least a girl that's a 6, like, that's decent. That's even more than decent sometimes. And girls like that in today's dating market can have a lot of options. And I always say this, but when you look at R9K, for example, there are girls that show up there, eat thoughts and whatnot, they want to be the big fish in the small pond. When they go there, I see a lot of these girls, and you look at how many orbiters they get, how many guys obsess over them, and guys want to date them and talk about them. Like, there's that black girl, Iris, that appears a lot. People post her a lot on R9K, or used to. And, no jab at her, but I would say she's, at most, I would say she's a 6. Some might even say a 4 or 5. But look at how many guys, simp over her. And other girls who are like on a similar level. But then someone like myself, a guy that's hypothetically a 6, you would never see girls doing that for me. So part of the problem with the whole looks match thing or idea is that the simple fact is, the unfortunate truth is that when you're comparing men and women when it comes to looks, a guy that's a 5 is not equal to a woman that's a 5. A guy that's an 8 isn't even really equal to a woman that's an 8. And if you're a guy and you say, well, I'll just focus on my looks match, it could still be very difficult depending on where you are. Now, if you're a 3, if you're a 3 going for a 3, then that's one thing. I think it's especially hard for guys like myself. I think guys who are like around the average range, I think we probably have it the worst, because we're going to want at least average looking girls, but average looking girls have access to guys who are significantly more attractive than us, typically speaking. But part of the reason why I don't necessarily believe in this idea that people need to, only date within their league or focus on their looks match is, one, and I don't mean to sound like the typical normie, I know a fat, bald, 5'5" guy that's dating supermodel. I don't mean to be that guy, but the fact is there are a lot of guys who have been able to date women who might be considered out of their league. In fact, and I've talked about this before, but I have a friend, and I remember when he got his girlfriend and I saw her the first time, and I was like, yo, damn, she's cute. And no offense to him, but if I had to be honest, I would say that I would have never thought that he could get a girl like that, because I don't see him as being any more attractive than I am. And so I know from firsthand that, you can be a guy that's not necessarily the most attractive and still get attractive women. So it's, I just say, why limit yourself like that? Why limit yourself to saying, well, I'm a 5, so I only deserve a 5, or I'm a 4, so I only deserve a 4. I think that's really silly, to be honest with you. And just real quick, I found this very interesting, but when you go on 4chan, it's fascinating how different boards have a different mentality when it comes to this. Like, if I go to R9K or ADV, those are places where you'll hear the most about dating in your league and, finding your looks match and shit like that. But then I remember I went on the gift board, the porn board, one day, and there was a thread that was basically saying post girls that are out of your league. And what surprised me was that there were so many guys who were commenting and chiming in and saying, basically saying that, why are you guys putting these girls on the pedestal? I've dated girls way out of my league. And but basically, it was the attitude thing that I really appreciated. How these guys were talking about being considered, less attractive, but having these instances of being able to date more attractive women. And of course, again, that's a real phenomenon. Sometimes the ugly guy or the average guy can get a girl that's cute or pretty. And so my thing is just, why limit yourself like that? And I told this story on what was it, the Forever Alone song, and I took the clip from one of the old How to Be a Neat episodes. But when I was in 3rd grade, I gave a girl a cookie. That was my way of flirting with her, right? But the thing was, and I always regret this, I kind of hate that I had this mentality, But I went for one of the ugliest girls in the school or in the class. Really, I didn't even like her. But I think somewhere subconsciously, I didn't have the confidence to go after the girls that I really liked. And I always, like, when I look back at that, I kind of feel bad about my approach there. I wish that I would have at least went for the girls that I actually liked, you know? And thinking about the whole looks match thing, you know, I kind of realized just how much of a self-defeating attitude it really is. Like, just think about it. Let's say, for instance, you go to a club or you go to a place where, you know, guys might go to try to talk to girls. Like, just imagine putting those limiters on yourself to say, I'm not going to talk to the girls that I'm most attracted to. I'm gonna just aim low and hope that I hit something. Like, to me, and I know that it might sound funny coming from a guy that's pretty much opted out of the dating game, right? But that's because it's not important to me. But if it was important to me and I decided I'm going to play the game, then fuck, I'm going to play. I'm not about to sit here and put those limiters on myself and say, I can't have this or I can't have that. Now, obviously, if I go for more attractive women, my odds of success are going to be lower, but that's fine. If I'm playing the game, I'm playing the game, you know? And the other thing too is just this. And I think, to me, this is the biggest flaw of the whole looks match idea, is that who says that people should only be paired up according to how good they look, right? Because I know looks are important, and that's one of the main things that, you know, these internet circles have been focusing on when it comes to mating and dating, is how much does looks matter. But, you know, things like personality and your character and charisma, these things matter too. Intelligence, how much money you have, and things like that. So what I'm saying is, why focus so much on the whole looks match things? Like, if you should only date according to your looks match, then should you also only date according to like how much money you make? Like, if you make $50,000 a year as a woman, should you not be allowed to want to date a guy who makes 100,000 or more? Or if it's the inverse, if you're a guy who makes $50,000 a year, should you not be allowed to date women who make more money than you? You know, or let's look at it from an intelligence standpoint. Why is there no intelligence match? If you have 120 IQ, or let's say you have 105 IQ, should you not be able or have the right to date somebody that has 120 IQ? And so I think, like, to me, that's the biggest flaw of it, because I think that it kind of exposes what's the real concern of people who try to promote this shit. And I think that from the male perspective, most of the time, the guys who preach about the whole looks match thing and just being honest, I think that a lot of times it's incel type guys who realize and recognize that, you know, I'm not some fat sloppy dude. And if you look at the incel community and a lot of the adult male virgins, like, it's not what you would think. A lot of them look like average dudes. You would never think that most of them are virgins or had big issues when it comes to attracting women. But I think a lot of them, they recognize that they're probably like a 4 or a 5, basically average, right? And so if it was up to them and we lived in a world where pairing up between men and women was based on looks match, then they would be fine because they would be average men or something around that getting paired up with average women, which is goddamn, like, that's great. Like, some people don't get that, but, you know, for a guy having a girl that's not fat and has an okay face, like, boom, like, that's a win. And so I think that's part of the reason why some guys really cling to that whole idea of the whole looks match thing. Because if that was the way the world really worked, then they would be A-okay. They wouldn't have to worry about, you know, having to date big, fat, sloppy, or gorilla land whale type bitches. They could at least have the average girl that they would be satisfied with because they themselves are average. And I think that from the female side of things, I think that it's kind of similar, where they don't want guys who are average going after more attractive women. I think a lot of the girls that, and the female perspective, you know, is kind of different because they have a different view of things, where they might even not have any big particular issues when it comes to dating, but you know how their standards are. So if you have a girl that's a 6 or a 7, you know, she'll be doing all right. But if she's fixated on a more attractive man and sees her going for more attractive women, then that could also give her that sort of idea that, oh, if only men would date, if only men would date their looks match. But I also think the other perspective is the normie perspective. And this is why you'll see mostly normies, they'll say like, they'll use the word league, because that's really where a lot of that stems from. But I think the reason why they tend to preach it is because when you have guys who come on the internet or really go anywhere and they're complaining about being single and they're complaining about being virgins, then the easiest way to shut them up and to get them out of your hair is to just say, look, go fuck fat bitches. Because that's when people say lower your standards and date in your league, that's really what they're basically just saying. It's a nice way of saying date fat women. Let's just be honest. And I talked about this before in the standards video, but I kind of digressed there. But yeah, and I'm just giving my opinion. I think that regardless of what you look like or what your situation is, I think you can have whatever standards you want, as long as you understand this simple fact: the higher your standards, the harder it's gonna be for you to get what you want. And the worst thing you can do is be somebody who has high standards, or even really as a man, average standards, and complain about being single and complain about being a virgin. Because the fact is, people don't care, and they would sooner rather you just shut the fuck up and date a fat bitch than to actually try to encourage you to get that bad bitch or to get that cute girl. And you know, and this is why I think it's kind of problematic asking for advice online, because people barely care about you in real life. They definitely not going to care online most of the time. You know, but if you think about it, if you talk with your friends about something like this, they're going to be more encouraging as far as you wanting more attractive women. Like, I can imagine if me and my friend got together and I was talking to him about wanting to get into dating and was like, yeah, I want a bad bitch, I want a cute girl, big titty goth girl, whatever, right? He would be encouraging, and just be, as long as I'm willing to take it seriously and put in the work, I know he would be encouraging about that. And so, but again, I think it's cool as long as you understand the basic law of dating, which is the higher your standards, the harder it's going to be to get what you want. But I think regardless of what you look like, it's up to you to decide what your standards are and what you want. Because the fact is, you know, if you're someone like myself and you're fine with being single and you're fine with being a virgin, and you don't really have any reason to settle. And I don't see why you should really confine yourself to that sort of limitation as far as the whole looks match thing. And again, like I said before, you know, why just looks? Why not intelligence? Why not money match? Why not personality match? Why not location? Whatever. People don't care about any other type of matching except the whole look aspect of it, you know. But I don't know exactly why that is, but it is what it is. I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and I will see you later. Johnny.